Well, are we having fun yet? I got to tell you, I once heard that a Democrat is just a Republican who's been to jail. And right about now, I'm thinking that maybe that's not exactly correct. Maybe a Democrat is just someone who should be in jail. We've been having a lot of fun since Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. My own personal feelings are that the woman gave a lifetime of service to that which she loved above all things, which is the law. I did not agree with a good number of her policies, and in fact, I found most of them inappropriate, because I don't want to say reprehensible. But within minutes of her dying, all of the Democrat socialists, bought and paid for by, amongst others, the Communist Party of the United States, and by the way, that's the hardliners, not the Birkenstock-wearing hippies, and the Muslim Brotherhood. Good people, right? So it's nice to know who's paying for your government. But of course, one of the first ones was my absolute favorite Democrat to loathe, because she actually is reprehensible. Justice Ginsburg's dying wish was that her seat would not be filled until a new president is installed. Senate Democrats, do not back down. You have a tough fight ahead, but our future is on the line. No SCOTUS appointments before the election. Yeah, well, a couple of things. First off, when you're dead, you're dead. You don't get to vote, and you don't get to have a fucking opinion. And the other thing is that, when you're on your deathbed, are you sure that the last thing, your last wish, is going to have anything to do with anything other than your family and your loved ones? So Maxine Waters is a hypocrite and a reprehensible person, and she really needs to be replaced, and God willing, that will happen. But this was just one of many, but this was within minutes of us finding out that Ruth had died. Then we have our boy Chuck Schumer, crying Chuck Schumer, right? Okay. Chuck Schumer, the American people should have a voice in the selection of their next Supreme Court justice. Therefore, this vacancy should not be filled until we have a new president. The kind of interesting piece about that is that they didn't say the next president, they said a new president. So I guess if Donald Trump gets reelected, we should keep that seat open until after that next term, right? But it's an interesting slip of the tongue. Oh, a new president. Yeah, what a charmer. And then he comes out and he says, Senator McConnell has defiled the Senate. Senator McConnell and Senate Republicans are trying to steal two Supreme Courts 4 years apart using completely contradictory rationales. Democrats are fighting to protect Americans' rights and Ruth Bader Ginsburg's legacy. Yeah, what bullshit is that, right? I mean, we'll start off with the fact that the Republicans have the responsibility, because they are the leaders of the Senate, to fill the seat. And the last administration, Scalise died, and the seat was left empty for 11 months. It was left empty for 11 months because we had a Democrat in the White House who was selling out our nation and basically, supporting our enemies, not supporting our allies, and was just not very popular with the Republican Senate. And I might also add in that all of this would not be possible except for Harry Reid, who basically, changed the rules. Well, at the time, Senator McConnell said, this is going to come back on you. Those weren't his exact words, but basically it has now come back on them. And the American people actually, the Democrats in particular, Schumer, are saying, we must listen to the American people. Okay, so if you listen to the American people, then you realize that for the last 3 elections, the American people have elected a Republican Senate. They first did it 3 elections ago, and then they improved it 2 elections ago, and then they improved it on the last election. More and more Republicans added to the Senate. The Senate has the responsibility to confirm or not the nominee for the Supreme Court seat. They kind of forget that. And it's like, well, isn't that the voice of America? Aren't the American people speaking through their voting? Oh, no. Couldn't possibly be that because, well, you know, if they're doing it right, then they should be voting for, you know, a Democrat, which, you know, at one time, you know, the Democrat Party is not the party of Kennedy, who everybody loved. And, you know, history has shown us that he had some screw-ups, but America was proud of that particular president. That's not the same people. Now, instead of standing up for the little guy, the Democrat Party is pissing on the little guy. Actually, there's a lot of little guys, because if you don't happen to be part of the educated elite, which, by the way, I have a good education, and for a while, I thought I was a Democrat, until I started paying attention and I realized, oh my God, these people are absolutely batshit crazy. And that has been proven way far better than I could have ever expected since the election of Donald Trump. See, the way it was supposed to work was Obama was going to set us up for the fall, and Hillary was going to complete the task and completely thrash this nation on behalf of what? The Muslims? Very likely. You know, if you take a look at some of the things that Obama was doing, I think it's a pretty fair bet that if the truth would come out, and by the truth, I mean not the cut, copy, and paste fraudulent PDF document, which was supposed to stand and serve as his birth certificate. And I'm not going to get into that particular conspiracy theory. You know, it's kind of funny how, you know, inconvenient truths become conspiracy theory. But the fact is, he did weaken us. He eviscerated our military. He pandered to our enemies. And yes, the Islam are our enemies. They are the enemy of anyone who doesn't also happen to be Muslim. If you're Christian or you're Jewish or you're, you know, some other thing, well, they can kill you with impunity because Islam is all about murder, rape, and enslavement. And if you read the Quran, first, you know, put on gloves. Second, wash your mouth out with soap if you happen to, you know, talk when you read. It's a travesty, but I'm not going to get into that today. What we're talking about is that the Democratic Party is not the friend of the people. The Democratic Party is trying to destroy this nation. And they were supposed to be able to do that. That's why they were so angry, because their goal was in their hands, or so they thought. But, you know, the communists, socialists, whatever you want to call them, they overstepped like they always have. Every time they're almost to their goal, they get greedy and they jump. Well, guess what? Most of America is not communist. Most of America is not willing to gut the Constitution. Most of America is not going to give up the Bill of Rights because of a political expedient of very wealthy interests. Not going to happen. And then we have this, going back to the idea of proof. Ocasio-Cortez, the gift that keeps on giving, just like human herpes. So here she is, saying, let this moment radicalize you. Exactly what do you mean by radicalize you? Does that mean get out and vote? Is that what that means? Or is it just another example of the Democratic Party suborning insurrection in our streets and having it exercised by Black Lives Matter and Antifa activists who are actually, according to BLM, well, we're trained Marxists. So you want to overthrow the government and you're in office. Yeah. So what do you mean by radicalize? Is it maybe go out into the streets as this later on that day, going to the ICE facility, going to a federal facility, rioting, Take a look at what's going around in the other cities. I don't have to show them, you know what's going on. Basically, they're, tearing the hell out of the country. And the Democrats are perfectly fine with that. And of course, they must be, because you have, Harris and Act Blue bailing out the violent offenders. So it's like a revolving door. You can assault the police, you can throw Molotov cocktails, you can loot buildings, you can, perform all sorts of acts of insurrection violence in the streets. But as long as you're Black Lives Matter, that's okay. God help you if you are, what's the term for it? A Western chauvinist organization that likes to drink beer and wave the flag. Well, then you're far right. And you're not welcome to have your protest, at which nobody starts any violence. Okay, yeah, we know who we're talking about. I'm not going to name them, but I will say that I support what they do. Not everything that they say, because there's people in every organization that perhaps would best keep their mouths shut. But for the most part, they go out, they stand for the flag, for the police, for the federal government, and for peaceful protests. And of course, the opposition, the Democrat-sanctioned thugs in the streets, start fights. And it's kind of funny, if you've ever actually watched the two opposing sides, you've got these guys on the one side wearing the little black militant masks and, having all of their rah-rah chants and their skinny little pimple heads. And the people on the other side sporting the flag, well, they're hardworking people. They got burly arms, big guys. Not to digress too much, but many is the time I've seen one of their little, Twinkies run up, smack a Black Lives Matter, smack a right wing, is what I'm going to say, protester, and the right wing protester turns around and with one blow knocks him flat. You'd think that you'd get tired of getting your ass kicked, but apparently, they're not worried about it because, of course, they're not going to get arrested. Instead, the people on the right are going to get arrested, and they're, of course, going to get charged, like the individuals in Manhattan who were charged with racial hate crimes, despite the fact that these people, were not racist. And in fact, at least one of them is a mixed marriage with children, but they went to prison for 4 years for defending themselves in a street fight. How does a street fight rise to a federal crime? Gee, maybe it's because it's a Democrat district attorney in a Democrat city in a Democrat state. Interesting. Not exactly news now. It's kind of ancient history. And of course, along with the elected officials, we have our unelected elites. Nothing says patriotism like a washed-up actor and a director of some really crappy movies. So yes, he did The Princess Bride, loved The Princess Bride, hated Spinal Tap, and everything that he's done since. What a scumbag. The only one that I think is worse than him is Robert De Niro, going on, TV and saying, F Trump, blah, 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 blah. Bobby's getting old, and the truth is although he may look like he's still a boxer, I'm pretty sure that a conservative of the same age and ilk could knock the crap out of him. And I'd like that to be a pay-per-view event. But yeah, Hollywood is lined up behind the most reprehensible things, and I'm not going to get into the pedophilia and crap like that. That's coming. I'll just wait till that hits the news. But these people are terrible. And, even when they get in to do something that should be a good thing, the House decides, hey, we're going to honor Ruth Bader Ginsberg. So they write this piece of partisan crap, which not only honors Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but also says, so we should also not fill the seat until after a successor is inaugurated. Yeah. Not the next president, a new president again. Well, Ted Cruz says, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. And good for him. I love Ted Cruz. I actually live in his district. I voted for him, and every time he does something, he makes me proud of my vote. Thank you for your service, sir. Anyway, you know, the whole thing is just a mess. And every time I hear these idiots, it just makes me crazy. And it makes me feel like somebody's trying to give me, you know, a case of the red ass. So, whoopsie! You know what I mean? Anyway, so this is just a short introduction, and I just wanted to have a moment to remind us of some of the joyous things that our beloved Democrats, you know, have been threatening us with if we dare uphold the Constitution, or if the duly elected officials in our government, you know, dare do their jobs. So what are some of the things that they want to do? Well, we're going to pack the court because there's nothing in the Constitution which says that we can't do it. You know, you will listen to the voices of America, or we're going to pack the court and punish you. Well, the only people that are going to punish is the entire country, of course, and the entire country has already spoken, as I mentioned, but apparently they couldn't hear that voice because they have their heads up their asses. But they're going to pack the court. So we have 9 justices. Well, why not 100? So let's go ahead and pack the court. Let's see you do something about it then. And you know, it's like, all right, that's ludicrous, and it's. Can you imagine trying to get a ruling from 101 judges? How long that would take? That's nuts. Okay, and of course I'm being hyperbolic, of course, but let's say it's 20 judges. It's still going to take a hell of a long time. And the other thing is that sooner or later, what would happen is that, like Harry Reid's decision to go ahead and say, no, you don't need a majority of 60 votes. No, you only need you know, a simple majority. And warning them, you know, don't do this. It's going to come back because, you know, the pendulum swings left and right, left and right. And by the way, it's coming back to the right. It's coming back so hard, I'm pretty sure that pendulum is going to slam into the wall and get stuck there for a while, which is fine by me because, you know, I'm not a leftist. But, you know, the voice of the people is, you know, is all we have. But the Democrats don't want to listen. All they want is a naked power grab, and that's what they're after. So they want to pack the courts. Never mind that it could go against them somewhere in the future. But they've intended that, well, no, that's not going to happen, because not only do they want to pack the courts, but they're going to end the filibuster rule so that a minority House can't do anything. They just have to sit there and say, yep, have a good time, everything's cool, nothing to see here because we're screwed, you know. And if that's not good enough, well then, well, let's go ahead and add Puerto Rico as a state, okay? Well, disregarding the fact that I don't really want to change the flag, but that's kind of a stupid reason not to make a state. We all know that, you know, they're basically socialist in their nature anyway, and they have no love for Donald Trump, that's for damn sure. And then they say, well, we want to make DC a state. Well, as I recall, the Constitution's very clear that the seat of government should not be in a state. So just another instance of them saying, well, we're going to piss on the Constitution because we have the power to do it. Yeah. Only if you get voted in. Good luck with that. Other things they want to do is they want to abolish the Electoral College. They want, you know, California and New York to basically say and dictate who is going to run the country ad nauseum. No. There's a reason it exists. And it's so that, oh, you know, the American voices get heard. But they will have none of that. They want power. That's all they want. It's crazy. And you take a look at some of the things that they're going to do if they actually have the power. Take a look in California. In the 60s, we had the civil rights movement, you know, which, by the way, was forced by leftists at the time. And Johnson needed to hold on to the country, so he acquiesced, because he might not have. I don't know. The man's dead, and I can't ask him. But the left at the time did a good thing. You know, they forced through civil rights legislation, and in the state of California, they passed a bill, a civil rights law, which said that, you know, for employment, you cannot discriminate against race, sex, religion, anything. It's like, okay, great. Only now they want to repeal that. Now they want to repeal it so that you can. And it's not to protect any class, it's actually to persecute white people. You may have noticed I'm dating a white European. But, you know, that's neither here nor there, because it won't just affect white people. You may have noticed they're not too fond of Asian people. It's like, oh, they work too hard, they get too good grades, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, the idea that you want to rip down a civil rights law so that you can discriminate and promote one race over another is an obscenity. But then again, that is pretty much where we're headed with the Democratic Party. They are absolutely an obscenity. And that's what I think. And I may not know what the truth is at all times, but I do know what I think. And one thing that I would caution all of us to do, if you know what you think, for the love of God, make an effort and find out if it's the truth. Thank you. God bless America.